What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Eye on the U, the Miami Herald show about all things Miami Hurricanes. I'm your host, Andre Fernandez, joined by Jordan McPherson, who is on location in Dallas, not too far from Jerry World, for the Cotton Bowl / CFP quarterfinal, which is ready to go on New Year's Eve, 7:30 kickoff. The Hurricanes against Ohio State. It's not the first meeting since the infamous finish of the 2002 national championship game. Miami and Ohio State played a couple more times in the regular season, but it kind of feels like it, Jordan, because it's the first postseason meeting between the two teams. We're going to dive into the matchup, all of that. We're going to talk a little bit about key matchups to watch in the game. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith is a big storyline, the receiver from Chaminade, future NFL guy. We've said for a long time we feel like he's going to be a superstar at the next level, but he chose Ohio State over Miami on signing day, and had some interesting comments talking about the state of the two programs had it been a little different about 2 years ago, where his destination might have been. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what Miami needs to pull off an upset. They're an underdog. They're a bigger underdog than they were last week at Texas A&M. Of course, we got to tackle the subject of that Fiesta Bowl, and I'll give my thoughts on that, and Jordan will as well. And we'll talk a little bit about Media Day and how that went. Jordan, a lot of storylines came out of that, both from the Texas A&M follow-up and the prelude to this matchup right here. And then we'll take a quick peek. I know we made our picks last week, but we'll take a quick peek at the other matchups in the quarterfinals. But let's get rolling with this Cotton Bowl, with this matchup. Miami really in the dance now, because the first round was some good games, and obviously the A&M game was a great overall game. But now it just feels a little bigger. Now you're at one of the bowl games. The intensity, the hype, everything just feels a little more like a championship level, which the Hurricanes really haven't been in a long time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And also, just first off, apologize for my voice, everyone. Starting to get sick here, so trying to just power through this right here. But
you're potentially 3 games to go. Maybe just one, but maybe 3. You never know.
Yeah, no. So I'm on the availability report, but I'm listed as probable. There's nothing stopping me from this one. But
there you go.
But no, it's again just stepping foot into Jerry World on Monday for Media Day and just walking around, looking through and everything, just like, damn. The place is amazing. They're actually here. It's like the A&M game, it was a playoff game, but being on the college campus and not having really much festivity, not much fanfare, it was just, okay, you show up the day before, you play your game, and you either get to keep going or your season's over. Here,
yeah, it felt like a Saturday. It felt like a big game, but a Saturday.
Everything. It felt, this being here, seeing the team arrival and them having the fanfare on Sunday, then the whole Media Day on Monday, and just seeing everything and seeing, again, all the just usual festivities that go into these big bowl games, these New Year's 6 games. This is where it really starts to feel like it. It feels like that first, okay, they've arrived moment. And the players themselves, even some of them even said, it was just like being in Jerry World. A lot of them were like, yeah, this is like a childhood dream to be in one of these stadiums, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, knowing the value, the importance, the magnitude of the game. And a lot of these guys, that's why they came to UM, was to get UM back to being in these moments. And now they're finally going to be there on Wednesday. And again, it's going to be a tough game against Ohio State. The last line, I think, has them either a 9 or a 9.5 point underdog. So they're going to need a lot to go right for them on Wednesday in order to have a chance here.
Yeah, I mean, the place itself, I mean, not to get too much into the stadium, but it's one of the best venues in the country, probably one of the best venues in the world, really. And, there's a reason Super Bowls and other major events, sports and entertainment, are held there. And it's really, like you said, I mean, I went there, it's been a while. It was actually a St. Thomas Aquinas game that I covered. And I was on that field. You look up and that gigantic screen and everything like that. It's an impressive sight. And they're gonna hope that, they're gonna have to perform under the big lights now for sure. And against the team that really is one of the elite in college football, respect due. This team was up there undefeated all season until Indiana took them down in a close game. I mean, a game that could have gone either way. So really, this Buckeyes team, when you look at it, what are some of the key matchups you see, Jordan? To me, I think the running, it's similar to last week. I think if they establish up front and they have to be able to run the ball, not just this time, not just to control the game up front, but also to keep their offense sidelined as much as possible. I think that's one of them right there. But there's other key matchups in this game.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Miami needs to win the time possession battle. They have to keep control of the ball, and most importantly, with that, they need to finish their drives because
Right.
again, I don't think you're beating Ohio State by scoring 10 points like they did against Texas A&M. They're going to need to finish drives. Obviously, the wind was a big factor in that A&M game with Carter Davis missing 3 of his field goals. I actually chatted with him a little bit on Monday and asked him how he was doing. He was like, "Yeah, you move on." And I asked about Jerry Roll. He went, "Yeah, it's great. There's no conditions here." So he's already moved on from that. But when you look back at Miami's overall drives, they missed the 3 field goals. They punted a few times. They had the Malachi Tony fumble. You need to score against this team. Ohio State has allowed an average of 8.2 points per game. They have not allowed more than 16 points in any game this season. You need to score against them, and you need to find a way to shut down their offense. Obviously, that sounds straightforward, but it's the name of the game. You need to find a way to score points on this team. And the way you're going to do that, they have to win the line of scrimmage. That's been Miami's storyline all year long, and it's going to be even more of a priority this time around. I mean, you look at Miami, again, their offensive line is one of the best, if not the best in the country. Their defensive line is going to have to build on that Texas A&M game where they got the 7 sacks and the 9 tackles for loss. Ohio State has only allowed 11 sacks this year. 5 of those came in that Indiana game. If Miami can pinpoint what Indiana did well and build on that and hope that those cracks that started to surface are still there and do that early, rattle Julian Sayin, because, again, he and Carson Beck are 1 and 2 in terms of completion percentage. If you can get Julian Sayin rattled playing on the big stage for the first time on his end, that's going to be major for this Hurricanes defense in terms of trying to stop that Ohio State offense.
Yeah, if Julian Sayin is 20 of 22, you're probably not winning this game because Correct. He is in a comfort zone. And then the time of possession factor, also, you want a fresh Ruben Bain, you want a fresh Akeem Mesidor coming after him, every play, getting in that backfield. And this brings up the maybe you said how 5 of those sacks came against Indiana. The schedule question, too. I mean, we had the schedule question against Texas A&M. Maybe not that drastic in this one, but still, I think Ohio State. You went over the numbers, Jordan. They didn't play the toughest Big Ten schedule. Let's put it that way.
Correct. I mean, you look at their schedule. They played Texas week 1, and that was a 14-7 game. They played Michigan. Obviously, Michigan was ranked. They beat them. I think it was 23-9, 27-9, something like that.
Yeah. And
they played Indiana. The rest of their schedule, if you look in terms of offensive production from their opponents that they played, they played of their 12 FBS teams that they played 3 of the teams that were among the 15 lowest scoring nationally. They played Wisconsin, 135 out of 136. They played UCLA, tied for 125 out of 136. They played Purdue, 122nd out of 136. And then they also played 5 more who were outside the top 50. Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, Rutgers, and Illinois. The only 4 that they played that were among the top 50, Indiana, who was 4th. Granted, they held them to 10 points. Washington, tied for 17th. Penn State, 35th. And Texas, 49th. Those were their 4 big games in terms of scoring offenses. The Hurricanes ranked 29th, averaging 32.2 points. Granted, again, they only scored 10 points in that first round game against Texas A&M. Whether if you get those 3 field goals or even you get 2 of those field goals, 16-3 looks a lot better than 10-3. Right. 19-3 definitely looks a lot better than 10-3. So if Miami was able to make those field goals, which Carter Davis had made all year, it looks like a lot more of a comfortable win against a bigger opponent going into this matchup. And that's the mindset Miami's taking into this was, yes, we only scored 10 points, but we know that weather factors excluded, which will be excluded on Wednesday by being in the dome at AT&T Stadium, things could have looked a lot different.
Yeah, they might have been in the 20s. Let's be honest. Yeah. I mean, and put it this way.
No, and there were also with that a couple of Carson Beck's passes. His deep ball to JoJo Trader that ended up sailing over him. Carson Beck said, out of his hand, he looked and went, "That's a touchdown." And then he saw it keep going and went, "Crap, no, it's not." Right. And it was just like that. Again, the passing game got completely eliminated there, which is why the run game was so valuable in that A&M game.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things. I mean, Malachi, again, it was probably a shoelace, if that tripped them up on that return.
Yeah.
If he scores, and then they miss the field goal, so they get nothing out of that. So there's another example of that should have been 7 right there. So yeah, if you take all those factors in, this case they could have probably, if not, like you said, 16 or 19, who knows, maybe even more, maybe even in the 20s, and then you're looking at a solid, dominant win on the road against A&M. But that's all, that's all in retrospect. They have to get it done. They have to avoid turnovers. They have to win the turnover battle too, and I think that's a big approach. I think as an underdog in any game, but especially in this one where you're a big underdog and facing a situation like this, they can't afford. Like you said, they have to hit the big chunk plays, but they can't afford to give the ball away against this team either.
Correct. And that's going to be big for them. And turnover battle-wise, if you look at Miami's record with the turnovers, they're a plus 11 in the turnover margin this season. They're 8-0 when they win the turnover battle, 2-0 when the turnovers are equal, 1-2 when they lose the turnover battle. They lost turnover battle against Florida. They won that, and obviously we know Louisville and SMU. And they're also 1-2 when they commit multiple turnovers. But Ohio State, they've only forced 14 takeaways this year, and have only given up the ball 9 times. So turnovers have been very non-existent in the Buckeyes on either end this season. So if Miami can force some takeaways, which again, starts with finding ways to rattle Julian Sain, finding ways to get him uncomfortable. And that's another factor that isn't really discussed much because Carson Beck was much of a non-factor last game. Carson Beck, even though he hasn't played in a CFP game before the Texas A&M game, he's been in the SEC championship game. He's been around these national championship teams. This is going to be Julian Sain's first soiree into this. So it's going to be interesting, the experience at quarterback, how much of an impact that might have in going into Wednesday.
Yeah, if all things are equal and they're not having to run for their lives under pressure all the time, that's where that could come into play. You let Carson Beck have time back there to make a big pass or something like that. I know we've talked a little bit about the current day matchup, but we gotta address the that infamous 2003 by calendar, but that 2002 season. Miami on that long winning streak coming off a national championship. They jump in front in that Fiesta Bowl, and you're thinking maybe this is a repeat. Then they find themselves in a battle. Willis McGahee, one of the worst knee injuries I've ever seen, shreds his knee in the middle of that, I think in the third quarter of that game, if I remember correctly. And then, of course, all the shenanigans that happened afterward at the end. I mean, how much is that? I mean, it's been talked about a lot this week, but I don't think this team is really focused on it from what I'm seeing, from what you've seen out there. It's us old schoolers that were around and remember the infamy of that pass interference flag that came in after they were rushing the field, and Keith Jackson in the booth was already calling Miami national champions, and all of a sudden this happened. And then the controversy with said official after that made it worse. Thinking of that, and I felt so bad for Glenn Sharp too. Here's my old moment of the week. I covered Glenn Sharp's signing day at Carroll City, and then like 4 years later, I'm seeing him not 4 years later, but a couple years later, seeing him right in the middle of that, being the guy who is flagged for that. And I felt so bad for him in that instance, being at the center of that storm. But is it even a thing? I mean, I know it's kind of a thing, but I don't think it's that focused when it comes to the players, it seems like.
When it comes to the fans and the reminiscing and just that portion of it, it's obviously been discussed. But internally for the Hurricanes specifically, it's a non-factor. I mean, Mario Cristobal, I asked him directly about it on Monday I asked him about it last Monday when we were still in Coral Gables, and he said, we're focused on the present, and then was asked a follow-up question, and his response was, games like this with 2-story programs, I think people are always going to want to, pull out history and draw comparisons, all that other stuff. Moments like that, they're valid. They're real. It's what makes college football awesome, the pageantry. But this game is the 2025 Hurricanes and Buckeyes going after it to be determined by the 22 guys on the field, one snap at a time. That's going to be the focus. That's where all our attention will be. And that's, again, what they have to do. And that's been his MO all season. It's, yes, there's all this history whenever we talk about the Notre Dame game or the last 2 years when they finally started playing Florida again, or just anytime FSU gets brought up, it's always, the fans can talk about that. We'll focus on what's on the field Saturday or Sunday or Wednesday or whenever they're touching the grass. They just focus on what they have to do to make sure that this version works out to their advantage.
Yeah, the fans and us in the media, we're always going to romanticize it and make the big matchups. Not just this one, but like a lot of traditional games. When you get 2 brand names like this, that's the other thing too. These are 2 brand names in college football. two multiple time champions with a lot of history, a lot of tradition. But of course, you point to the last time they played each other when the stakes were, if not that high, very close. And it's, this is the close. That's what I'm saying. Like, people, I've talked to multiple people this week that didn't even remember. I didn't even really remember. And then I'm like, that's right. They did play twice in the regular season, like a few years later in 2010 and 2011. They split those two games. Yeah, maybe at the time that felt like, oh yeah, we got some payback. Like
not as much.
It doesn't mean it. Yeah, like this is the first time that the stakes have been this high. And if you're one of those fans that sees it as a revenge game, this is the opportunity for the team as well. But again, like you said, it's good that they're not basing it solely on that. They got to focus on just, executing what they need to do to win this game in advance in this playoff right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And again, we've seen how headstrong this team has been all year. Again, going back to last time they were in this area, the SMU game, and just how they responded from that. That game could have easily just completely destroyed their season. They gave them their second loss in a 3-week span. They were completely on the outside looking in, and they just found a way to reset, keep their focus on, okay, we have 4 games. We're essentially in the playoffs right now. And went full steam ahead with what they had to do to make sure they got to this point. Didn't focus on the past, didn't focus on what went wrong with Louisville, what went wrong with SMU. It was, how do we beat Syracuse? How do we beat NC State? How do we beat Pitt? And then once they got in, okay, how do we beat Texas A&M? Now it's, how do we beat this Ohio State team?
Ohio State.
Yeah. Right. Now it's literally just a matter of staying as tunnel visioned as possible. And that's the mentality you have to have, especially when you're in the Hurricane situation, of knowing how much outside noise is that there has been between all the discussion about whether they should be in the playoffs, should the whole Notre Dame, Alabama, BYU debate going into selection week and all that. They just had to figure out, how do we make sure that everything stays internal? They don't let any of that leak in. And to their credit, they've done a good job of doing that.
That goes back to what we talked about, I think, later. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, about, I think it was last week, actually, going into the A&M game, the whole rest versus focus and high intensity that Miami's been in for weeks now. And look what happened last week up in A&M. I think it's a good thing. I think the fact that put it this way, that they're battle tested and focused, but not all banged up, because there's a difference. Sometimes this happens and a team is like torn to shreds in terms of injuries. No, this team was torn to shreds in terms of injuries mid-season. Now they've gotten healthy for the most part. They do have one key player that's going to be out that was already announced. We'll get to that. Damari Brown is going to be out for this game. But overall, compared to where they were 2 months ago, this team's in a lot better shape right now when it comes to injuries. And that's big because, yeah, you can take all that and, like you said, that week-to-week approach. But tell us a little bit about Media Day, Jordan. There were a lot of storylines that came out of it. One interesting one was Jacobe Thomas and how he honors Sean Taylor.
Yeah, this is a story I've been wanting to do for a couple weeks now. And actually, I have to give credit to Josh Darrow, their sideline radio reporter. He put a photo on his Twitter account. I forget which game it was, and it had Jacobe Thomas's backplate, and it said, "Rest in peace, Sean Taylor," this, that, the other. And I was like, that's interesting. And I just thought it was something from this year, him honoring him, because, again, he's playing safety. He's at UM, all this. And when I talked with Jacobe on Monday, he said, no, I've been doing that since my freshman year. He was my favorite player growing up. And just the fact that he's playing here now and just the full circle moment, it just added an extra element to it. And you just think about the other parallels. Sean Taylor was a freshman on that 2001 national championship team. Jacobe Thomas is in his first and only season at UM this year, trying to get UM back to those glory days. And his thing is basically he wants to leave a legacy. He wants to be able to honor the greats that have been here while also playing his game. So he just has that duality of, I know what it means to be a starter on the defense for the Miami Hurricanes. He looks every time he goes to the IPF, the indoor practice facility, he looks up top where all the names of the All-Americans are, and he looks and goes, he sees Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Sean Taylor. He's like, all these first-round draft picks, all these Hall of Famers, all these legends in UM lore. And while his name's not going to be up there, he's had a hell of a season. I mean, he has 4 interceptions, including the pick six against, I think it was Syracuse. He had a couple games where he had back-to-back games with multiple turnovers. He's been one of their 2 starting safeties. And again, he came in after spring ball. So he was one of those guys who came in last second and really had to jump in and help with that revamped secondary. Him, Zechariah Poyser, Keontae Scott, Xavier Lucas, and just Ethan O'Connor, all these guys who had to basically come in and completely revamp what was the Achilles heel of this defense last year. And if you look at Pro Football Focus's grades and whatnot, he's actually graded higher than Ohio State's Caleb Downs, who was named the Jim Thorpe winner as best defensive back in the country, who was named an All-American over Jacobe Thomas and a bunch of other guys. So in terms of just the pure ratings, he's been right up there with some of the best in college football and just hasn't gotten the national love and the national respect that he probably should be getting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame because it's only 1 year, but he plays that similar style. It reminds me, it's interesting because he does remind me kind of just, of that Sean Taylor style, ball hawk, kind of. I mean, you saw it in the FSU game and a few others this season. So that's pretty cool that he has he honors the past the way he does with Sean Taylor, and he's gonna have to play like Sean Taylor this week. I might have to look up on YouTube and watch that 0-1 game against Nebraska again, just to palate cleanse a little bit. I don't think I'm going to watch that 0-2 Ohio State game too much.
No, probably not.
Probably not. But the local stories, Jordan, is this 2023 and I'm watching Heritage and Chaminade play each other, or what the heck is going on? I mean, we mentioned Jeremiah Smith earlier. We didn't dive too much into it. We're going to do it now, but let's do it in the lens of a lot of local flavor in this game. You've got, obviously, you have Jeremiah Smith for Ohio State, Mark Fletcher, Malachi Toney on Miami's side, Brandon Inniss, another familiar face to South Florida fans in this game on the other side as well. How's that kind of been this week as everybody gets ready? Again, the Heritage Chaminade boys at it again.
And you forgot a couple of them. I mean, you got Kenyatta Jackson on defense for Ohio State.
The top part.
Yeah. And also on Ohio State, they have CJ Donaldson, who played a goal over prep as well.
That's
they have
right.
They have 4 local guys on their side. And I chatted with 3 of them. I didn't get a chance to talk with CJ Donaldson. Brandon Inniss and Mark Fletcher, they still talk and text daily. Well, except for this week. This has been the exception. These last few days have been a little radio silence there.
What?
But again, those guys, they're not taking this matchup for granted. The Ohio State guys playing against the Hurricanes. Obviously, a lot of them, whether they knew they were going to go elsewhere or were deciding between Miami and Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith, cough, cough, Jeremiah Smith, they understand the magnitude of going against their hometown team, going up against a lot of their friends who they played ball with growing up and know at this stage of the college football season. And again, on just the both sides of it, I mean, you've got Xavier, it's just the American Heritage size. Like you said, you got Brandon Inniss, you got Mark Fletcher, you got Xavier Lucas. Damari Brown is out, but you had Damari Brown. You have so many just from that one school. You got the Chaminade guys, JoJo Trader on Florida or on Miami as well. You got OJ Frederick from St. Thomas Aquinas. It's just a matter of all these guys who grew up together. And it's just the latest reminder of just, again, we talk about it all the time, but it can get lost in the mix sometimes, just how star-studded our high school teams are, and just to be able to see how much they are able to go up and make an impact on the college stage and eventually afterward at the NFL. It's just a really good reminder when you see how much talent is going from our area is going to be making an impact on this game on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's what I always tell the bosses. I'm like, we got to cover the high school sports down here because it's a hotbed for a reason, and not in a lot of sports, not just football, but primarily in football. It's amazing, like you said, every year, and then you turn on Sundays too, and they're in the NFL, and a few of these guys, I think will have a shot at that. I think, we mentioned Jeremiah. I thought at Chaminade, I'm like, this guy not just is going to make the NFL. This is a week 1 starter wherever he goes, and I'll keep saying that until it happens.
Yeah.
And,
a lot of people think that a lot of people think that if he didn't have to wait the 3 years, he can go and be top 5 pick right now, and he could.
Yeah, no,
but
he could have played in this game 2 years ago. That's how good he is.
Hands down. And again, it brings back in. I just want to go more in depth with the story. Like he talked a lot on Monday about the what if, which everybody's been asking about. Just the what
interesting
if,
answer too.
Yeah. What if he was on the other sideline for this game? how much things should happen. And he was asked in multiple different ways of if Miami was playing the way they are now when he was a senior at Chaminade, would Miami have had it? Would there have been a better chance for him to be at Miami? And he straight up said yes. He said, yes, if Miami was playing like this, I probably would be a Miami Hurricane right now. And it's a double-edged sword where and again, that was the follow-up question was, but you also understand, Jeremiah, for them to play like this, they need guys like you. So it's right. If everyone had your mindset, how does Miami get to this point? And he was just the matter of the whole back and forth with that. And trying to find the exact quote that he said. His big quote to me, to the group was, with that what if, was, does he think about what could have happened? He went, I think about it sometimes. A lot of people say that to me, that you were probably the missing piece on this team, probably the biggest miss in Coach Cristobal's recruiting history. I'm just happy I'm here. I mean, Miami's still going to be Miami at the end of the day.
Well, he's got one more year, right?
Yes, he has one more year.
Transfer portal. Okay.
Yeah.
Saying.
Oh, bad.
Yeah. No, I remember that signing day. That was wild. We were there at Chaminade, and he didn't sign right away. It took a minute. There was some, let's just say, there was probably some bidding going on behind the scenes until finally later that day, it came out that he ended up picking Ohio State. But he had Miami fans dangling for hours there on signing day to find out. And what a shame, because you imagine him already on this team as stacked as it's become. I mean, hey, we'll see. We'll see. Yep. It's never too late now with the portal. You never know. But not insinuating anything, just saying it's there. Yeah. So other storylines here for this game coming up. You mentioned Carter Davis. Has he gotten over the A&M game? Is that because kickers sometimes mental can be such a thing. I know it's the wind and all that, but that still can get in your head. How's he looked this week going into this game?
Yeah, he seems fine. I mean, I talked to him on Monday, and he basically said that his processes, everything is still right. All of this, it's just a matter of what are you going to do when your kick is going down the middle and that last second completely goes left or right, or when you try to adjust for it and the one time you do adjust for it, the wind does nothing. It's just a matter of, okay, you just got to throw your hands up. It is what it is. I asked him how frustrating it was. He went, it was more a thorn in my side than anything because I know what I can do. I've shown what I can do this season, and wind basically just almost completely negates everything I did this season. But he said he's already mentally moved on. Everything felt right in the week and a half of practice since then. All of his processes, all of his routines, all of his everything he does to set everything up is still perfectly intact, perfectly fine. So mentally he seems good, but again, that first kick is going to determine a lot about everything in there.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Right as you're saying it, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, that could be a key moment in this game if it happens. Like if let's say Miami's first drive stalls and it's there, and even if it's a 30-yarder, that's a huge moment in that game. If he can make that, and then suddenly it's like an exhale for him to like now put it into reality and get there. So that's a big key to this game too. Miami can't afford what happened last week. Not even three. I don't think they can even afford to miss one field goal in this game. It might prove costly because this could be
every point going to be precious.
Every point counts. Exactly. On the injury front, we mentioned no Damari Brown, unfortunately. He's been ruled out of this game. Do you have any update on not only him but anyone else of importance that is iffy for this going in there, Jordan?
The only guys who have been ruled out are Damari Brown is out, freshman wide receiver Dalen Upshaw is out. He had a foot injury in practice during the lead up to A&M. He's out for a while. And then other than that, it's freshman defensive tackle Donta Simpson, who's at the very back end of their defensive tackle rotation, and linebacker Malik Ryan, who's been a non-factor for most of the season. Everybody else is good to go. Another guy, actually, Mo Torre. Actually, I talked with him for a good bit. He broke down that pass breakup on second down before Bryce Fitzgerald's game-sealing interception. And again, we were all worried, like whether it was concussion, this, that, the other. From what he told me, it was just the impact of the tackle. He didn't have his mouth guard in when he made that tackle. So it was just a lot of mouth pain. Well, exactly.
One of those.
Exactly. Yeah, he said he blacked out for a second, but he was again, in terms of like injury, whatnot, it was just the initial shock of the contact that really did that. But
that's so scary because you could,
yeah.
maybe you don't want to end up like having so it needs some dental work there or something.
Correct.
If you get, it's almost like a hockey hit.
No, the thing is, the dude wears braces already as it is, so it's just so just the work that will be added on to what he's already doing. But no, he's completely good to go. Everybody else of importance is good to go for this game on Wednesday. But no Damari Brown. Again, that's one less guy to use in your rotation for the matchups against not just Jeremiah Smith, but Carnell Tate too. Again, remember, the two of them combined. Miami had a challenge against Texas A&M with both Carver and Casey Concepcion, but this is going to be to the next level with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. Again, both of them are absolutely fantastic. So that trio of Frederic, of Xavier Lucas, and Ethan O'Connor, they're going to have to be on their game on Wednesday.
Yeah, you have two NFL guys to cover in this game, I'm sure. It's going to be a lot tougher for them to handle. So it's a shame he's not Damari Brown's not going to be there, but it's another chance for a guy like Bryce Fitzgerald and others to step up. You know, the babies have to grow up fast, and they have grown up fast. And I don't even like calling them babies because I saw these guys do a lot of good things even at the high school level. Bryce was amazing there, and it's starting to translate to the college level. So we'll see how they can do. Besides this game, Jordan, we wrap it up. Let's take a quick look around the rest of the playoff field. We talked a little bit about it last week. Miami, of course, kicks off the round, as we said before, New Year's Eve, 7:30 kickoff. And then on New Year's Day, a triple header, the first day game Orange Bowl in decades at noon, as the 4-seed Texas Tech takes on the 5-seed Oregon. This is probably the toughest one to call, I think, and the seeding fits because it's a really even matchup. I know you and I both said this was probably going to be down to the wire. You like Texas Tech from what I remember last week. I kind of like Oregon because of Dante Moore, but this could go either way.
Yeah. Just for me, Texas Tech's defense it's so stout. Their pass rush is probably the only one in college football that rivals Miami's, and they're probably a tick better than Miami. I just feel like they're going to be able to. I feel like they're going to have the edge there, and if they can get to Dante Moore, I think that'll set the stage for them.
Yeah, and then the Fernando Mendoza playoff debut, 4:00, the granddaddy of them all, as they call the Rose Bowl still to this day. At least it has a Big Ten team. It used to always be the Big Ten and the Pac-10 or 12, whatever conference was at the time.
Yeah,
good one as Alabama, who kind of shut some people up last week by doing what they did at Oklahoma. Now they get an even bigger obstacle to take on the Heisman winner and Indiana, the breakthrough team of college football. Can they do it in the playoffs? I think they can in this round, but it's not going to be easy.
Agreed. I mean, Indiana, if Fernando Mendoza is able to hold his own and their defense is able to do what they've done for basically all season, I think Indiana is going to live up to that number one seed on Thursday.
Yep. And then at night, as it usually has been throughout the history of this bowl, the Sugar Bowl with an all SEC matchup, very appropriate. 8:00 out there in NOLA, Georgia and Ole Miss, and this is the game. The winner of this game would face the winner of the Miami game, and Ole Miss, good for them. We talked about it a little bit last week. Good for them after the whole Lane Kiffin fiasco for them to get the playoff victory. But now this Georgia team looks nasty. This could be the scariest team on the bracket left right now.
I completely agree, and yeah, I mean Georgia's looked really good. They're peaking at the right time, and again, if Lane Kiffin was there and they didn't have that whole distraction of everything that's gone on since he left, I think this could have been a closer, more intriguing game. But Georgia beat Ole Miss once. They know what they need to do. I think Georgia's gonna have not an easy path, but I feel like it's gonna be an easier path than it probably would have been if things were different than what has unfolded over this past month.
Yeah, and then look beyond the next round, the matchups, as we said before, the Sugar Bowl winner faces the winner of the Miami game, and that would be January 8th at the Fiesta Bowl, one semifinal, yes. And then January 9th would be the Peach Bowl, which will pit the winners of the other two, the Indiana-Alabama versus the winner of the Orange Bowl, and then the national title game right here in Miami, January 19th. So We'll be back next week. Next week, we'll be talking about what happened. Is Miami still alive, or did the Buckeyes get them once again? Hopefully, I just hope it's nothing that we're lamenting for another 23 years. Let it be clean one way or another on the field. that sort of thing. I don't want to have to deal with another hose job like it was in 02. But we'll see. We'll be back. Jordan and I will be back next week on Eye on the U to talk about that. We'll talk a little hoops too. We didn't this week, but we'll talk a little bit about how Miami did in their ACC opener against Pittsburgh on Tuesday night, and see how the women's team is doing by then. They're 1-1 so far in conference play. But the main thing, can the Canes get to the CFP semifinals? We'll tell you. We'll talk all about it next week. Until then, Jordan, who is out there, enjoy Jerry World, enjoy New Year's Eve right after, toasting a great season or a great victory. We'll see. Until then, I'm Andre Fernandez for Jordan McPherson. Thanks for watching Eye on the U. We'll talk next week.